Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us on today's online meeting, where we'll try and travel through time with wine. We're here in the heart of any wine growing operation, which is the tasting room. I'm here with my colleague and head winemaker Carlos, and we're both delighted to host you. And just before we start, we'd just like to let you in on a first-hand secret, which is Kopke has been awarded the 2021 IWSC Fortified Producer of the Year award. And this is something, massive for Carlos, for us, for the whole company. Being the oldest port wine house in the world and being named as Fortified Producer of the Year, it's fantastic. And one of the key trophies also was the wine trophy for the 40-year-old tourney. So, Carlos, how do you feel about this?
I feel very good. It's a pleasure for me and for my team and for the company, for the Kopke company. Good afternoon to all. It's a pleasure for me to present some wines and some phrase from Kopke. The team and I are absolutely delighted to receive this prestigious award. We are thrilled to have our commitment to excellence and history recognized, and which drive us to continue to make fantastic ports.
Yeah, we're also, Carlos, we're very lucky to have access here to a very, very vast library of very old wines at Kopke, including a plethora of tawny ports and very rare white wines, all of which has led to this award. And it also helps to seal Kopke's long-established reputation for producing the finest ports. Carlos, I think, as you said, it is a privilege to be able to preserve Kopke's heritage for future generations, yeah?
Yeah, it is a privilege. It's necessary me and my team to preserve these wines for the next generation, because when you make port wines, you make the wines for the next generation. Now I work with the wines, all the winemakers working in the Kopke before me. Exactly. I'm the winemaker now. I produce wine for the next generation, and I maintain the good quality, and I preserve the wines existing in our stocks.
It's never too much to sort of remind all of you out there that Kopke is, in fact, the oldest port wine house. It was founded in 1638, so established many years before the actual Douro demarcated wine region. The wines for Kopke are sourced mainly at our property called Quinta São Luís. This property was actually bought in 1922, so it's not that old for the Douro, yeah. But it's a historical quinta situated on the left bank of the Douro River, and it is considered one of the most emblematic properties in the Cima Corgo, which is the heart of the Douro demarcated wine region. 125 hectares, of which Carlos and the team know, vine by vine. 90 hectares are planted with some very carefully nurtured and some very old vines. So, as you may know, for those of you that have visited the Douro, it's an imposing geography, the Douro Valley. Plunging valleys, vines are grown from as low as 70 meters near the River Douro to as high as 600 meters up in the top ridges. And it's an immensely diverse terroir and the cradle of the Kopke wines, where we both hope that the legacy will continue. So today, Carlos and myself, Carlos being Kopke's winemaker and master blender, and I oversee sales and marketing as the export manager for the UK. We're going to try, or we hope, to take you through a little bit of history. And I'll actually start by asking a simple question to Carlos, which is, how do you and your team preserve this legacy with the aged tawnies and the Colheita wines?
It's an amazing job. It's not easy, but if you work with the passion,
Yeah.
everything is it's well. I working with Colheitas. I work with Colheitas by when you work with Colheitas demands extra levels of care and precision. Um, with Colheitas is the art of the blending is probably more complex than the other parts. Behind the Colheitas is limited to only one harvest, and because releasing on the excellence of on base wine.
The base wine for a Colheita has to be extraordinary.
Yeah, it needs to be extraordinary, and Colheita just coming a single harvest. The Colheita don't exprime exactly the terroir, the year, but exprime the complexity to the years aging in the oak.
So I presume that over the years there is a constant attention to the different vats or the different vessels where the wine is being aged, the different locations within the cellars. We're the cellars are behind us.
Yeah. When we work with the Colheitas, is necessary. Do you know four things very important? You know the grapes, the region, the door region, the methods of vinification, the brand that you use in the Colheitas, and another thing very important is the local or the oak where this wine is aging. It's necessary. Do you imagine? Do you produce these Colheitas? For example, the Colheitas you're tasting today, the 66. Is a Colheita produced in the year 1966, and you need to produce a wine have capacity to aging for a long years in the oak. If you produce a good wine, but you use a bad oak, you don't produce the best
Colheita.
Fantastic result. It's necessary. Do you know everything to this and make the best things of you need for produce good Colheitas. It's important in the harvest, but another thing very important is the time the Colheita aging in our cellars in Vila Nova de Gaia in the small barrels.
And also, Carlos, let's not forget that a Colheita is not bottled at a set moment in time, but what we do, we bottle to order. So when we're fortunate to receive an order from many partners all over the world, Vintage Wine and Port is obviously one of our very cherished partner. For example, Colheita 1981 that we will be tasting today also. If this Colheita was bottled this year in 2021, or if we're drinking a Colheita 81 that was bottled in 2000, for example, the personality of the wine will be very different. So a Colheita is much like a human being, a person. The character and personality will change over the years. And this is where also all this care and time and passion that Carlos and the team must have overseeing all the different blends, all the different vats. It's absolutely incredible. One thing that also we'd like to focus on in today's tasting, even though we're going to just taste one of the aged whites, is something that Kopke's become, I would say, very well known for in the recent years, which is the full 10, 20, 30, and 40-year-old whites. And I actually, this brings me to a point that I'd like to ask Carlos what sort of care and attention goes into the white ports.
Yes, it is the same apples for the white Colheitas.
So white Colheita is obviously made from white grapes.
Yes,
and the red Colheita is made from red grapes.
The vinification is similar to the red grapes. The vinification, the grapes in the lagares, the vinification with the skins is similar to the red grapes.
And maybe since 2002, Kopke has been producing limited quantities of white colheitas every year, correct?
Correct, because before 2002 don't exist the rules in the EVDP. The EVDP is the organism regulation the port wines. Exist colheitas in the port houses, but don't exist the regulation. In 2002, the EVDP promote regulation for the white colheitas, and Kopke every year produce a small quantity of white colheitas. Now produce little bit more wine for white colheitas because the demand for the clients increase than in the past.
So maybe we'd suggest, I think it's a perfect time to start the tasting. The first wine of our journey today is exactly the 2003 white Colheita. And whilst Carlos is having a quick look at the wine before he speaks, I'd just like to say, so 2003, almost 20 years ago, it was a brilliant year for vintage ports, as you all know, or some of you know. And actually what you won't know is that it was the first year that Carlos Alves made his first harvest in the Douro. So Carlos was born in Boticas, which is a distant village almost near Spain.
Near to Spain, yes.
But also very near the Douro Valley.
Yeah. No. 100 kilometers.
Yeah, 100 kilometers towards Spain, yeah?
Towards Spain, yes.
But in Trás-os-Montes or in the hinterland of Portugal, just like the Douro Valley. And 2003 produced very full-bodied wines with very, very good aging potential and exceptional quality. And maybe as you try the 2003 white, I'd like to ask Carlos to explain the grape varieties, the main grape varieties in this Colheita.
Yes, João. 2003 it's a great year for me. Is the year I start to is the year I start to work in the Douro, in the harvest. Never interrupt this job. I started in 2003, and now I'm in the Douro at the moment to work in the port wines. For vinification, this wine just use for white varieties. Viuzinho is a great variety, a great grape. Normal all colheitas use a percentage of Viuzinho. Another three grapes is Gouveia, Rabigato, and Malvasia Fina. Malvasia Fina is I use Malvasia Fina because Malvasia Fina have a high percentage of sugar and transmit to the wine have capacity to fermenting a little bit more in the lagar because the fermentation in the ports is very short, 3-4 days. If the concentration of sugar is a little bit low, the fermentation is more fast.
And then Rabigato.
And then Rabigato is for some freshness and volume in the mouth. Rabigato and Gouveia, volume, Rabigato is freshness.
And maybe as Carlos is tasting the 2003, I'll just anticipate the 20 years old white. So we have two white ports in the tasting today. The main difference between a Colheita and the 20-year-old, which is a blend, is the Colheita is from a single year, or Colheita. That's what Colheita means in Portugal. In Portuguese, it's harvest or year. And the 20-year-old is a blend. And very, very simply, Carlos will attempt to have a house style under the 20 years old. The 10, the 20, the 30, the 40 is always a blend and a house style. A Colheita reflects the harvest, reflects the year, and it reflects all those years aging in barrel. With the Colheitas, if I'm not mistaken, we used robotic lagage on some of the white Colheitas.
Yes, for producer white Colheitas, I use robotic lagage. The grapes fermented with skins, and the robotic lagage
Imitate the human
the
feet.
human feet.
Yeah.
When you use the robotic lagage, you extract too much, you extract a lot tannins, a lot coloring in the white wines. But is not a problem for us because this wine, the Colheitas, aging in the minimal 10 years
In the barrel.
in the barrel.
Yeah.
If you produce a very strong wine, the wine have capacity to aging for a long time. The fresh flavors, normally the white wines is normal fermenting white wines. You remove the skins and the wine fermenting just the juice. You produce wines more fresh, more delicate, and the wines little bit low body. In the port wines, you vinification with the skins for extract a lot for produce a very concentrated wine with the tannins, some tannins, concentration in the volume because the wine need capacity to aging for a long time.
And as Carlos was saying, because the vinification process with ports, it's very short, 2 to 3 days. We have a small window to extract as much color, flavor, and all the other components from the skins of the grapes. That's why even in the traditional method with the human feet, the extraction was in a very short period of time.
And it's not important the fresh flavors come to the vinification because these wines, the flavors you feel in the wines is a tertiary flavors. Is a flavors come to the aging process, not just flavors come to the grapes. Okay, the difference to the Colheita and the blend is the blend. When I make the blend, I make the wine is all ready to drink now. When I make Colheita, some Colheitas, sometimes when the Colheita is a little bit young, you feel too much alcohol, you feel a little bit too much tannins, you feel more brandy. The Colheita need more time to appreciate than the 20 years old.
And Carlos, that reminds me, just a quick question on the brand, on the brandy. So you select specific brandies for the white Colheitas and the red Colheitas?
Yeah, it is very important. You need to remember for produced port wine, you use 25% of the brandy. It's very important. You choose different brands for different wines, not just different brands for the reds and the whites, but different brands for different wines or the ones you need to produce.
And we call the aguardente, as we say in Portuguese, brandy is aguardente. We cool it down when we add the aguardente to the white Colheitas.
Yes, in the white Colheitas, I call the brandy, the aguardente, because when you need to interrupt the fermentation, you need to put the brandy to the wine for stop the fermentation. If the brandy is too much hot, you ramp the flavors to the wine.
And the fragile aromas in the whites, you lose them. Yeah, you lose them.
Normal for the red wines, I put the aguardente in two different times. In the whites, normal 3-4 times different. I don't put the total quantity. Do I need to interrupt the fermentation? I make the aguardente in different stages.
And the harvest. So we typically pick grapes in the Douro between August and late September.
Yes.
The wines will stay in the Douro typically until January.
February.
When we bring them down to Vila Nova de Gaia.
Yeah.
And the last edition of brandy is around January.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and it's very important the wine stay in the Douro in the winter because it's in the Douro in the winter the temperature is low, is too much cold, and this is the first sedimentation or natural precipitation of the wines, and the first sedimentation is in the Douro in the December, January, and in January make all the wines,
the final blend,
the final blends, and the wines come to Vila Nova de Gaia for aging for a long period.
And the white wines will age typically between 4 and 6 years in barrels or oak vats of a capacity of 7,000 to 15,000.
In the beginner, in the 4 6 years, in the more high barrels, the tunnels,
which are the bigger barrels.
And after 6 years, go to the small barrel, the traditional barrel for the port wine. I don't put in the beginner in the small barrel because if go in the beginner, extract a lot color, extract some more tannins. In the beginning, and then go to the small barrels.
So the small barrels in Portuguese is what we call a pipa or a pipe. You've probably come across the word pipe in the books talking about port. A pipe is the official, let's say, measure of port, which is 550 liters. And just to give you an idea, we have balseiros, which is the biggest capacity vats in our cellars of what, 150,000?
Yes.
So some balseiros can take as much as 150,000 liters, and a pipe is 550. So the beginning of our tasting, in a nutshell, let's say, is a white Colheita, so a single year white port from a specific harvest, in this case 2003, and we're comparing to this 20-year-old white. Would you like to quickly just give us your opinion on the main differences between the white Colheita and the 20-year-old white, Carlos?
But first, I need to say some
maybe things about the blends or the house styles.
Some appointments with Kopke. It's very important in the finish when they tasting all the wines. Feel one characteristic very important in the port wines from Kopke: the freshness and the acidity. For us, in the Kopke, the acidity, the freshness is very important because these wines have a quantity of the sugar, the residual sugar. If you don't preserve the freshness, the acidity, the wine is a little bit more boring. One characteristic in the Kopke is all the wines is fresh, is
lifted in the mouth. Yeah,
lifted in the mouth. Yes, in all the wines. If you're tasting the whites, the Colheitas, the blondes, or the reds, the freshness is one characteristic very important in the Kopke. And this freshness is you obtain this in the Douro, in the Alves, picking the grapes in different altitudes. In the low altitudes, you extract alcohol, you extract full body. In the altitude, you preserve the freshness, the acidity. Blend these together and maintain the style with Kopke. Another style in the Kopke is the flavors come to the aging in the oak. Okay.
So yeah, and as Carlos was saying, we're very pleased with under Kopke, under our Kopke brand and house, we have this full range of the aged whites, the 10, 20, 30, 40. Unfortunately, today we're only tasting the 20-year-old, but I think by comparing the 2003 white Colheita and the 20, as Carlos said, this freshness, this acidity, this very uplifted style, we hope that you see this in these two wines and that you enjoy them.
2003 is a little bit more fresh flavors in the nose, exotic, like a little bit lemon, orange peel skin, apricot is the more fresh. The 20 years old, you feel more the honey, oak. You feel more the flavors come to more time in the oak.
And actually, Carlos, if you then maybe we could suggest if you pour or if you try the 20-year-old tawny, again 20 years, then you can really see the difference between a blended white port and a blended red port. So the 20-year-old tawny is made from red grapes and the 20-year-old white made from white grapes. By the way, all grapes, indigenous grape varieties from the Douro. With the reds, we're talking about Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, Tinta Barroca, Tinto Cão, Solzão, Tinta Roriz. And before I ask Carlos to talk a little bit about the red colheitas that we have 3 to taste, maybe you can say a few words about the blended tawnies and then the 20-year-old as the example that we have here today.
All the harvest, I decide the wines go to the colheitas and the wines go to the aging part for the 10, 20, 30, and 40 years old. This start in the harvest. In January, I decided the final wines go to these different categories. For example, when I decide to make the 20 years old Kopke, I have a huge range with wines for different years because I produce in the last harvest, in the harvest 20, I produce a wine go to the 20 years old. In the 19 harvest, I produce another wine go to the 20, and I tasting all the wines, and I produce the final blend, the 20 years old. Normal, I use wines between 18, 22 years for produce these wines. Okay, this is normal. The average I use for produce. And the idea in the 20 years old or in the aging part, I need preserve the characteristics. I need maintain the style every year. Okay, sometimes it is necessary to change a little bit the style, but the change is very slow because the idea is every year the wine is the same. The aromas, the flavors, every year is the same. When you taste the colheitas, this is a little bit different because the colheitas every year the style little bit change. For example, in the hot harvest, it's normal the colheitas have more residual sugar. In the harvest, a little bit more cold, like the last harvest, the colheitas, the percentage of the sugar in the final wine in the colheita is a little bit more low. The colheitas depend the year.
Just one question about the 20-year-old tawny. If you have to explain the profile of the 20-year-old tawny, what would be the key? Dried fruit.
The key is the
spices, maybe.
Is the spices, a little bit of dry fruits, coconut, and in the mouth very fresh, and you feel like honey, very balanced in the mouth. And in the end, the wine is of a high concentration with sugar, but in the end, the freshness comes to
the acidity and the freshness
come to the mouth. It's not too boring wine. This is the idea in this 20 years old.
And would you say most port houses, the 20-year-old tawny, out of the 4, the 10, the 20, the 30, and the 40, the 20 can be the most balanced and the wine that shows the best expression of the blend, or not necessarily?
It's true because the port wines need time to aging. One wine of 10, 15 years old in the aging, the wine is not all complete. It's not young, it's not too old. But 20 years old is when the wine go to the maturity. Into the maturity, how the complexity to the flavors come to time to the aging in the oak is very balanced. You maintain some freshness to come to the young wines, but you have more elements come to the process to the aging. It's a very blunt. Normal is a very complex blend. Okay. When you go, for example, for the 30s, some 30s too much aging. You feel more the aging process. sometimes it's a little bit more boring. It's not. The 20 is more complex wines.
And they're very balanced.
Normally I recommend how the port wines when you want to speak about the townies or reds or rubies. I said if the wine of 20 years old, 25 years old is already to drink.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit about the first three wines, and actually I think we're delighted with this lovely packaging. We hope you are too. So the first three wines, two whites and a red, and now we're going to go into the last three. And just a few words about our Tawny Colheitas. So again, Colheita, wine from a single year. The 81, the 66, and the 57 are all made mainly from four grape varieties: the Touriga Nacional, Tinta Roriz, Touriga Franca, Tinta Barroca. They were fermented in lagares. A lagar is a granite sort of rectangle where historically grapes were trodden. So granite stone lagares, and they ferment at a higher temperature than the white Colheitas, around 29, 31 degrees.
And the white 20, 22 degrees.
So we add brandy in two different stages. First, to stop fermentation and halt the transformation of alcohol, of sugar into alcohol. Hence the fact that all port wine has a natural sugar in the wine, so it's not an added sugar.
It's not permitted.
Exactly,
the sugar come to the grape.
So we'll add the brandy to stop fermentation, and then about 5 days later, when we rack the wine, we'll add a little bit more of the brandy, and basically the wine has been made. Both in the whites and the reds. Exactly.
Increase the alcohol for the 20 degrees or 90 degrees, and the wine is already to prepare to go to the aging.
And again, our main worry or concern is that we don't burn the beautiful fragile aromas that we want to extract from the grapes, and that's why the adding of aguardente in the right moment with the right technique is so important. The red Colheitas, as opposed to the whites that we talked about before, they'll start their aging in large capacity vats also, 50,000 to about 80,000 liters. Yeah.
Has 4 years.
3 or 4 years, okay. And then again, these wines will go into the pipas or the pipes, and the 81, the 66, and the 57 are kept in our warehouse here in Vila Nova de Gaia. And Carlos,
yes, just maintaining in the pipes for a long time, just to go to the market when the client demand. But I've one precision, one time per year, my team rank the samples for all the pipes. I tasting the wines in this room, and decide sometimes decide to remove the wine for the different pipes and put the wine in a big vat for homogenization the wine, because these wines aging in different pipes, the process to the aging is different, because every one pipe aging the wine different the other pipe, because the oak, this is not inox, it's not stank, it's not.
So it allows oxidation.
The oxidation
porous.
is different in different oaks, and the idea is one time per year rack the wine for these different oak, put the wine in the big vat and homogenization the wine. This is very important for Kopke. Why? Because if you don't make this, if you bottling the pipe, the one pipe 1 month is different when you bottling the wine for another pipe.
So again, we only bottle on demand.
And the idea is maintain the consistency, maintain the balance, the wine all to the year. And this is as possible. One time per year, make the wine together and a big vat, and then return to the same pot.
And I think one thing that Carlos and I have talked about many times, and that we see in the 57, the 66, and the 81, is again this sort of vibrant acidity, the freshness, and this consistency of style. And if you think, and we invite you to taste the three wines, the 81, the 66, 57. I think you'll find that this freshness and liveliness is a real characteristic to wines that are now very, very, very old. And it's amazing how young they still feel in the mouth.
66 is very fresh.
It's got a sort of, it's fresh, but it also has that sort of cigar character and tea leaf.
Yeah.
I think the great thing with these older Colheitas is each person will be more, let's say, in tune with certain aromas, certain qualities of the wine. And if you look through the different layers, there's always something to find, and there's almost always a hidden character to the wine every time you open a different bottle, which is also quite exciting.
Yeah. Another thing very important when you work in port wines is very important. You look to wines every day. It's not. Sometimes I have the idea. I produce the wine, I put the wine in the barrels, and I wait 40 years, and then I bottling. No, this is not happen. It's not correct. You need tasting the wines. Not every day, but one time per month. You're tasting the wines and you accompany the evaluation of the wine. You need education the wine. For me, the wines is just sun.
It's like a sun.
It's like a sun. You need education the wine for the wine. When you decide the wine go to the market, the wine is very good. It's the best wine. I don't waiting for miracles for
a miracle.
I don't waiting for a
miracle.
Miracles. I don't wait for this. It's necessary working every day, tasting the wines for different oaks, for different capacities, and when it is necessary, you make something in the wine. You have an action of the wine. This is very important. Not just put in the bottle and wait.
And actually, with the 1981, which is now 40 years old, we started off this tasting by saying how happy we were with the prize we'd received, and actually the trophy that was awarded in the IWSC was for the 40-year-old Tawny. So if you can, we would recommend, obviously, and it's obvious why. If you could open a bottle of 40-year-old Tawny, compare it with the Colheita 81, you'll see how the blend and the Colheita are completely different animals. And then obviously the 66 and the 57, I think each person will have their own opinion. And
another thing very important is when you're aging the white wines obtain colors and the red wines lost colors. Sometimes it's difficult to distinguish the white to the reds. For example, in this Colheita 81, you feel some like a amber color with a red.
A little brick.
But when you go to the 66, you don't have a brick color, just amber color, dark, like a green, because the reds lost color and the whites obtained colors in the process to the aging.
So maybe
another thing very important when the people tasting these wines or drink these wines is the correct temperature.
Of course, yeah.
It's very important because you remember these wines have a high quantity of sugar and have a level of alcohol of 20 degrees. If you drink these too much hot, you just feel the alcohol, you don't feel the wine. The idea is 40, 60 degrees for the white and 40, 16 degrees Celsius from the red. It's very, very important.
And if you don't have, let's say, a port glass, what we suggest, just get your white wine glass
I prefer
Yeah,
in the
white
white glass.
wine glass.
In my house.
Yeah.
In my house for traditional taste.
Put the bottles in the fridge, take them out 20 minutes before, and serve them like you would a white wine. And the wine is only going to increase temperature in your room, but you'll get the best out of the wine if you serve it chilled. And actually, Carlos, I'm gonna pick up the glass of 57, and maybe we could just say a big obrigado to Tony, all the team at Vintage Wine and Port, and obrigado to Carlos and his team for making fantastic wines. Thank you very much. Enjoy. Enjoy. Obrigado.
How do you decide when to release a Colheita and how much of the stock to bottle? Okay,
so we've just a good question about releasing Colheitas and stocks. I'll just give you a little bit of input from the commercial side, and then Carlos will also talk a little bit. What we have been doing over the past 10 years, let's say, we fix an amount of liters per year, and we release this into the market, making sure that when this allocation, let's say, ends, then we stop making this wine available for a few years. We'll allow the wine to age in barrel, just like Carlos was saying, and then after X amount of years, we will then release another small allocation. The reason we do this is that we would like to be able to afford customers the possibility of drinking the different years over a longer period of time. If we release everything into the market indefinitely, then the wine will end up, it will finish. Yeah.
Every year, in the end of the year, I decide the wines or the Colheitas are more already go to the market. I decide the technique opinion. I pick the technique opinion to the commercial opinion. The guy control the stocks, and then decide to the wines go to the market. Have the idea, the quality first. Another very important point is the quantity exists in our stock. If it is a little bit more wine, is normal. The company put in the market more quantity. If the wine is very limited the wines to selling. 10 bottles, 2 bottles, depend the wine.
So it's basically an allocation system, and then we release the wines over a period of time, and then we stop for another period of time, and then we may go back.
This is necessary because if don't make this, João and your team selling all the wine and don't maintain the wines in our stocks. And it's very important to remember port wine is maintain the stocks for a long period, not selling all the Colheitas in 1 year or 2 years. No, need maintain our stock. Need maintain the wines in our stock. Have a cost. It's very expensive. Maintain this, but this is the life, is the story of the port wine.
Does that sort of answer the question?
Thank you. It does. Next question.
Okay, the next question's really for Carlos.
Mm-hmm.
So the oldest of the wines that we're tasting today is more than 60 years old. What do you think from, say, the vintages of the last 10 years? What do you think you'll be releasing in 50 years' time as a 60-year-old Colheita?
So Carlos, good question about, so the oldest wine that we're looking at today is 57. If you were looking back to your stocks in the last 10 years, what do you think will be the equivalent wine in 50 years' time from the last 10 years that will match maybe the 57 quality or the character of the wine? Do you want to pick one or two harvests that might become a 57 style wine in 60 years time, in 2080?
This depend the years, depend because Colheita for us, Colheita is born and go to the aging. The idea is good natural acidity, balanced with acidity to the sugar and go to the aging. This depend to the years.
Unlike vintage port,
Yeah,
that needs to be a specific style to age in bottle, a Colheita we can have surprises from different vineyards.
The idea is make the best wine for the Colheita, but the year and the years aging in the barrel decide if the Colheita has the same quality to the 57 or the 66. I suppose the wines I make now is better than these one of the 60 years old. But if it's not better, the minimal is the same quality. But this is the idea. The idea is, because it's very important, you make a good wine in the beginner. When the wine born, you need a good wine. If you produce a good wine, it's easy the wine aging very well and produce a fantastic, amazing wine. My first Colheita is in 2003, and the wine now it's amazing. But I've yet capacity to aging for more time. Okay, now the process is a little bit different because in the past it's not easy to drink the young wines. Now the winemaker for port wine need the capacity to produce a good wines for drinking the wines little bit young and have the capacity to aging for more time. But this is the analogy, is the focus now to the winemakers. But my idea is tasting the 66 or the 57, and I said I need every harvest the wines have the capacity to have the same quality to this 57.
Yeah.
Because it's the old wines, is the old wines teach me the wines I need to produce.
Thank you, Carlos, and thank you, João.